Welcome back. The Honor Flight Network has been working to pay a small tribute to World War II veterans by taking them to Washington, D.C. to see their war memorials. To raise awareness for that cause, we're sharing the remarkable stories of some of our veterans, including Cyclone Davis.
You know, he's only 5 feet 8 inches tall, but in my mind, he's a giant.
He first became known simply as the Cyclone.
Because of a maneuver I used in the P-40 when I fought these guys, pulling up and doing a spin, some guy came up with the idea of, who's going to fight the Cyclone tomorrow? Picked the nickname, been with me ever since.
This is the plane that he shot down.
Emmett Cyclone Davis always wanted to fly.
Just wanted to learn to fly.
And we know it's my dad.
And for a warrior of the greatest generation, service meant
try to do what you've been trained to do, go fight a war.
As they dropped their load of death on the naval base on Wheeler Field.
On the morning of December 7th, 1941, he woke up under attack.
And the fellow that I was staying with shook me and he said, the Japanese are here. And I looked out the window and I saw a Japanese dive bomber.
He and a fellow flyer drove in a convertible to the flight line.
And we got strafed by the Japanese as we drove down there. Our airplanes were, a lot of them were on fire. Pulled 3 of them out of the fire, and the 4th one I decided to keep.
In the air, Cyclone went in pursuit of the enemy.
And I flew 3 missions that day, and of course we thought they was going to invade us, but they didn't.
A couple of battles go a different way, and we could have lost that war. And we would be living under the Third Reich or the Empire of Japan.
Well, he was one of those that helped save the world, literally.
We set an example, that's about all I can say.
He's kind of a crusty old colonel with a marshmallow center.
He's real jumpy even still today when you wake him up, because he had many bunkmates who would get their throats slit in the middle of the night.
Major Emmett Davis destroys a
I
Jap
saw
pony.
2 airplanes come out of the sky.
Remarkably, Cyclone's granddaughter discovered this footage of Cyclone protecting his squadron.
When he gave up and pulled up, that made it an opportunity for me to slide in on his tail. That was my first Japanese kill.
He was awarded decorations 45 times.
For Colonel Davis, the reason for victory was what he calls the American boy, the finest soldier in the world.
The Silver Star.
I expected I had a little protection.
And the reason he survived.
Maybe the Lord thinks he can make something out of me.
Cyclone Davis. Most of the World War II veterans we've been honoring this summer are men, because women in combat were rare in those days. But a Utah woman heroically survived an incredible ordeal, spending months behind enemy lines. And for many decades, the details were kept secret. John Hollenhorst has her story.
When Claire Ann Porter Hughes was a little girl, she rarely saw her Aunt Helen, but she keeps a photo on display all the time.
Yeah, I'll never forget her.
Aunt Helen was usually away on military duty, but she often sent packages.
And she also sent me a box of her blue nursing uniforms to dress up in.
Aunt Helen was involved in one of the most remarkable rescue operations of World War II. It was a big story. Army nurses rescued from behind enemy lines.
Aside from cigarettes and gum, the nurse's primary interest is to get a real hot bath and a cup of American coffee.
But most details were kept secret or falsified.
They have all come from the snow-covered forests of Yugoslavia.
Actually, they'd been hiding out in Albania. As recounted in a recent book, The Secret Rescue, the nurses' ordeal began in November 1943 when 13 American nurses and 13 medics were on a flight to Bari, Italy. We spoke with author Kate Lineberry via Skype.
And they got caught up in a storm, and before they knew it, they had crossed the Adriatic, were running out of gas.
By the time Lineberry wrote her book, only one survivor, Harold Hayes, was still alive.
They started shooting at us. We were forced to crash land in Nazi-occupied Albania.
For 2 months, the main group traveled hundreds of miles through Nazi-controlled territory.
Well, I think they really had luck on their side. There were so many instances of near misses, near-death experiences.
They were escorted and sheltered by anti-Nazi partisans, communists, who eventually led them to a rendezvous with British and American rescuers.
The partisans enjoy an American cigarette.
But very early on, Lieutenant Porter and 2 other nurses had gotten separated from the main group during a Nazi attack. The trio of nurses spent 5 months nearly behind enemy lines. They survived mainly because a prominent, wealthy Albanian family took great risks to help the Americans.
And they had a secret room in the basement where they hid them. But there were Nazis that established themselves right across the street from the house.
Eventually, partisans smuggled out Porter and the other 2 nurses dressed as Muslims. Details were kept secret for decades.
She appeared at our house one day, and they said that she had been freed and that she had been smuggled out of Albania by the people who lived there.
For decades after the war, U.S. officials worried that those who helped the Americans might face retribution.
We were not to talk to anybody about where we had been, anyone who helped us, and how we escaped.
So, when we think of the heroes of World War II,
chewing gum.
Let's remember some women who weren't considered soldiers, but took great risks for their country.
I don't know if you'd call her a hero, but I think they were very courageous.
Helen Porter married after the war, completed a career in the military, and died of cancer at age 55.
John Hollenhorst reporting. Several honor flights are scheduled for September. You can help donate to the Honor Flight program at any Mountain America Credit Union in Utah or honorflight.org from anywhere around the world. That's our report this week. I'm Dave McCann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.